Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at 4 on this Thursday, and it's fall.
All of a sudden.
Overnight.
The furnace was on, then the AC, now the furnace is back
yesterday
on.
the AC was on in the morning. I put the furnace on when I went to bed.
Gonna wear out the switch.
That is Wisconsin.
Yes, it is,
October.
for sure.
All right, we'll get to the weather in a minute, but first, here's what's making news this Thursday. Daylight brings scenes of devastation wrought by Hurricane Michael.
Yeah, some of that video is unbelievable.
It is.
A suspended UW football player enters a plea in Dane County Court facing felony sexual assault charges.
And what happened during a meeting between the President of the United States and rapper Kanye West in the Oval Office. This is not The Onion.
No, it's not. Let's take a look outside today. A little brisk this afternoon. Little peaks of the sun here and there. Isn't that good to see?
Yeah, the wind chill back. The weather words, cover them up. Could be the end of the growing season tonight. And Dana Fulton's in the backyard weather patio, bundled up. I think it's the first time you've worn a jacket.
This thick of a jacket, I have to point out, I think it's a child's coat. It's a little small on my arms, but it's necessary. I had to grab something to come outside. It's just a little too chilly right now, guys. Yes, fall has certainly arrived for us. We've had a mix of clouds and sun today. A little bit more cloud coverage, though, than I think we would have liked. The sun certainly would have helped us warm up quite a bit. Looking at our visible cloud track, you can see not a crystal clear sky. But not too bad for us. And no rain concerns at all. Our Doppler tracks is very mellow and mild. We're going to stay dry for the next few days. Looking at our afternoon, so things are going to look pretty good on our Doppler track for us. And that's good news as it's going to get quite cool. We're currently sitting close to 42 in Madison, about 46 in Janesville, 45 in Mineral Point. So in the last 24 hours, we've dropped to about 30 degrees for much of the area. Wind speed's a little brisk right now as far as that wind chill. Our wind speed's about 13 miles per hour towards Middleton, coming from the northwest, so that cooler air shifting on in, closer to 20 miles per hour in Monroe. And that's sustained wind. You can hear the trees behind me. Grab a ponytail if you're heading out for the evening, ladies. Your hair's just not going to stay straight and flat. Overnight, we are expected to drop quite a bit. By 7 a.m., we're close to 31, below freezing, and that's not even our overnight low. We do have an alert day in the forecast for tomorrow because of the hard freeze potential. As Mark and Susan said, the growing season is going to be wrapped up as we head into this weekend. Very chilly outside and cool for us tomorrow afternoon as well. We'll get a closer look at that forecast through the weekend in just a few minutes. Right now, I want to take a quick look at what's going on the roadways. The first alert traffic update, our first look at traffic throughout Dane County right now. Things look okay, a little slow in the Beltline, but no major accidents. I do want to point out that exclamation point up near Lake Wisconsin. The Merrimack Ferry there closed due to high winds. As I mentioned, the wind's a serious thing right now. Of course, keep that in mind on the bridges as well. You may feel it in the little cars. Eastbound on the Beltline, about 19 miles per hour before John Nolan Drive. After it, you're going about 16 miles an hour. Looking at that merge north on 39, the exit ramp starting to pick up a little more speed. It was backed up quite a bit about 20 minutes ago, but eastbound heading up towards 39 will go about 14 miles per hour there. Again, no accidents, just a little slower, but our drive times all look pretty steady and in the green for us. So traffic not a concern. This weather, though, it is chilly outside. Dust off the sweaters. If you haven't pulled them out just yet, you're going to need them for the weekend. But we'll take a closer look at the forecast in just a few minutes.
We're thinking that jacket belongs to Cupcake Caulfield.
That's it. Okay. Got to go let Dave know.
All right. Thanks. See you in a few minutes, Dana.
Okay. Thank you, Dana. And weather tops our news first at 4. The extent of the damage from Hurricane Michael is becoming clear.
But the danger isn't over yet as Michael, now a tropical storm, makes its way across the Carolinas. So far, the storm is blamed for at least 6 deaths and massive destruction. Hillary Lane has the latest from Panama City Beach, Florida.
Entire neighborhoods are flattened in Mexico Beach, Florida, where Michael made landfall as a catastrophic Category 4 hurricane. There's nothing but concrete slabs where houses and businesses once stood.
Total devastation. It's leveled. Things that were on the beach are now on the other side of the street.
Trees are snapped. Boats are tossed out of a canal. The town's water tower is tipped over. Officials are warning people to stay away.
Roads are not open, and you will not be able to get home if you live in or near the coast.
Hurricane Michael also ripped through Panama City Beach here, completely destroying this automotive shop. Many other businesses here also suffered major damage.
It was wild.
Gary and Pam Barr ran from their veterinary hospital to a former bank building across the street to ride out the storm.
We're in the vault. Pam and I were in the vault with a couple of 3 animals.
The bars said they felt safe inside the vault, but couldn't really hear the storm.
It was very interesting because when the roof blew off after we'd only been there maybe an hour and a tremendous noise, you could tell something bad happened outside.
Eventually, the vault ceiling started leaking and caving in, and the bars started praying.
We held on to our hands and went, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and we're together. So it's okay.
The couple says all of the animals under their care survived the storm. Michael is now roaring across the Carolinas. Damage in the region is estimated to be in the tens of billions of dollars. Hillary Lane, CBS News, Panama City Beach, Florida.
And a Wisconsin National Guard medical evacuation unit is headed to Florida to help that state recover from Hurricane Michael. The State Department of Military Affairs says Governor Scott Walker received a request for assistance from Florida officials and authorized a National Guard call-up to help. In other news, suspended Badger football player Quintez Cephas enters a plea in Dane County Court.
Cephas faces 2 felony sexual assault charges. Eric Franke has more in the newsroom. Eric?
Susan, Mark, this all stems, of course, from that incident that allegedly happened back in April when 2 women came forward to say they were at Cephas's apartment on April 22nd and that he sexually assaulted them while they were drunk. Cephas says it was consensual and pleaded not guilty today to those charges. The 20-year-old wide receiver has been suspended from the team since those charges were filed. A separate attorney has also filed a lawsuit on Cephas's behalf against the university in federal court for how it handled a Title IX investigation into the claims, saying it violated his constitutional rights. Bishop Tavis Grant is the Cephas family minister and spokesman.
And his family want a speedy trial. He wants to get back as soon as possible. They would take him to court today. He'd go to court today. The fact of the matter, he is innocent. He believes in the justice system, and he wants his day in court.
Badgers senior captains Michael Dieter and Dakota Dixon were there in court today in support of Cephas. The attorney for Cephas in the criminal portion of this case, Stephen Meyer, says he continues to gather surveillance video from the night of that incident. He couldn't get into detail about what was in the video he's seen, but Meyer says what he has seen gives him no reason to change his earlier request to dismiss the case. Cephas is due back in court November 13th. Mark, Susan?
All right, Eric Franke, live in the News Center. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Music stars gathered at the White House today after President Trump signed landmark legislation for the music industry. Mola Lenghi reports from the White House.
It was a star-studded day at the White House. First, President Donald Trump and lawmakers gathered with musicians like the Beach Boys and Kid Rock to sign the Music Modernization Act, a bill that updates royalties and copyright rules for the music industry.
Certain entertainers have been taken advantage of, but no longer. Because of Trump, can you believe it?
This is a great start to protect songwriters, producers, engineers, the unsung heroes behind many of these songs.
The event was a show of bipartisanship after weeks of partisan bickering between members of the U.S. Senate.
I'm grateful to the entire range of the music industry for coming together on what they agree on, putting aside what they don't, and then working with this whole range of those of us in Congress.
Later, the president had lunch with rapper Kanye West and football legend Jim Brown to discuss issues affecting the African-American community.
We feel that stop and frisk does not help the relationships in the city.
I think it's a shame what's happening in Chicago. If we can do it a different way, Kanye, I'm totally open.
West's appearance in the Oval Office today is drawing harsh criticism after he launched into a profanity-laced tirade about racism and mental illness. President Trump joked that the media was more interested in his meeting with West and Brown than they were in his meetings with lawmakers. Mola Lenghi, WISC News 3.
Kanye West made headlines recently after he made a speech touting his support for President Trump after a performance on Saturday Night Live. West has since deleted his social media accounts.
There is mounting circumstantial evidence that the Saudi government allegedly ordered the murder of Washington Post reporter Jamal Khashoggi. The Washington Post is reporting that U.S. intelligence may have intercepted Saudi officials talking about luring Khashoggi back to Saudi Arabia. Khashoggi has been an outspoken critic of the Saudi government and the country's crown prince. He was last seen entering the Saudi consulate in Turkey. President Trump has said that the U.S. investigators are working with Turkey and Saudi to Saudi Arabia, that is, to find the truth.
Election day is less than a month away, and the city of Madison is looking for poll workers. There are hundreds of vacancies remaining in Madison for poll workers for the November election. The city clerk's office normally has more than 3,000 poll worker shifts for election day, and there are still hundreds of vacancies.
We have two different shifts, a morning shift which runs from 6 to 1:30, an afternoon runs from 1 to about 9:30, and then if somebody wants to work a double, they can.
Poll workers are paid $13 an hour, and they will also be paid to attend 1 hour of training. We're taking a closer look at where the candidates for governor stand on health care and coverage of pre-existing conditions.
The most recent Marquette Law School poll shows 78% of voters say those insurance requirements are very important to them. Rose Schmidt is here now. She's digging into the issues and what you need to know. Rose?
Well, obviously, healthcare is on so many people's minds this season. Currently, people with pre-existing conditions are covered under the Affordable Care Act, but members of Congress have pushed for the ACA to be repealed. Now, if that were to happen, what would each candidate for governor do? Well, Governor Walker's spokesman told News 3 today that if something were to change, Walker would call a special session and get something passed. Meanwhile, his Democratic opponent, Tony Evers, challenged Walker to drop support for a lawsuit that would repeal the ACA. Evers says he would extend protections for people in our state with pre-existing conditions should the ACA be repealed. This issue has hit close to home for so many people, including Rhonda from Cottage Grove, who has ovarian cancer, but she says the term pre-existing condition applies to so many things.
We all know people who have asthma, who have diabetes, who have all of the conditions that if we did not receive the preventative and health care necessary to keep that disease in control, the costs are even more astronomical to society.
Rhonda tells me she's not surprised at those new Marquette poll numbers because she noted that healthcare affects so many people. That's also why you're likely seeing so many ads run on this issue. And on News 3 at 6, we will share Rhonda's full story and what she'd like people to know about what it's like to live with a pre-existing condition.
Looking forward to seeing that at 6. Thanks, Rose.
Well, NASA says 2 astronauts from the U.S. and Russia will be flown to Moscow after surviving an emergency landing today on their way to the International Space Station.
And there is liftoff of the Soyuz MS-10.
About 2 minutes after the launch, cameras captured what looked like an explosion. NASA says the failure of a Russian booster rocket a few seconds after the first stage separation led to what's called ballistic descent mode, subjecting astronauts to nearly 7 times the normal force of gravity.
We are now hearing that they're in communication with the rescue forces on their way to the capsule and that they're in good condition.
The capsule made an emergency landing and the crew are said to be feeling good considering what they went through. Russia is suspending manned space launches while investigators figure out exactly what went wrong.
Quite a close call.
Yeah, it really was.
It was another brutal day today on Wall Street. The Dow dropped over 1,000 points in 2 days.
We'll find out what's triggering this massive sell-off when Live at 4 continues. Welcome back. Stocks tumbled for a second straight day.
This marks the 6th straight day of losses for the market. The market has been rattled by signs of a slowdown in the global economy, the U.S.-China trade dispute, and signals from the Federal Reserve about additional interest rate hikes. So many people are cashing out, but CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger advises investors not to panic.
Even if you were thinking about retiring at the end of this year and you're 65 or 70 years old, you're probably going to live for another 2 decades. So we really want you to try to keep yourself from tinkering with your portfolio. Stick with your game plan.
But many on Wall Street are waiting anxiously to see what the Fed's next move will be.
When the dust settled today, the Dow Industrials fell another 545 points, closing at 25,052. The NASDAQ Composite Index lost nearly 93, and the S&P 500 was off 57. Well, it's almost the weekend in the 608.
Emmy Fink is off today, so Madison Magazine editorial intern Sammy Gibbons is filling in. Hi, Sammy. Good to see you.
Hi, thanks for having me
You
back.
came back.
I did.
Glad to have you back.
Good to have you back. It's going to be a chilly weekend, so a good time to have it be all about books.
I was going to say, yeah, perfect time to curl up, move on from the summer music festivals. We've got the first big weekend of the Wisconsin Book Festival, so that features everything from big Pulitzer Prize-winning authors to panels of our very own Midwest writers, including women science fiction writers, and this is all taking place at the Madison Central Library as well as other places around downtown. Madison Magazine is especially excited because we have a couple of our own there. Doug Moe, a former editor and now columnist, is joining with Tommy Thompson, the former governor, for the book they worked on together about Tommy Thompson, so that'll be really exciting. Doug Roach is also going to be there.
John Roach.
John Roach, I apologize.
He was on the show yesterday.
Yeah, he'll be there talking about his book of columns that was recently released, as well as Stu Levitan for his new book as well.
Madison Magazine, well represented at the book festival. There's another festival going on as well.
There is, yes. The Wisconsin Science Festival. It's the 8th annual one. That's starting at the Discovery Center as well as other places around UW-Madison's campus. There's things for all ages, including the busy workers going on today. There's the big ideas for busy people contagion. So they're quick 5-minute presentations about infectious diseases from experts around Madison. There's also science on the square. So there's dozens of Capitol Square locations featuring different science experiments and events for everyone to learn.
All right, WisconsinScienceFest.org for more information. Yes. A couple of well-known Grammy Award-winning jazz musicians are in town this weekend.
Yes. The renowned Kenny G is coming. Many of you may have seen him in a Snickers commercial recently. That's what I know him as. But he sold more than 75 million records, and so he's coming here along as part of his 30-year career. He's going to be at the Capitol Theater at the Overture on Friday night with his smooth saxophone sounds.
Jazz.
Yeah. And additionally, over at Memorial Union in Shandon Hall, we've got Pat Metheny bringing his jazz improv. He does a lot of jazz guitar as well as other instruments.
He's won the Grammy 20 times.
He's won 20 Grammys.
Wow. Also, a couple of performances by women artists on the docket.
Yes, we've got Beyond the Ingenue coming from the Music Theater of Madison. So this play is about beyond. An ingenue typically means an unsophisticated, naive woman, and so, but this play goes beyond that, as the title says, and so the women talk about social issues and important topics, and they perform songs from renowned composers like Sarah Bareilles, who composed Waitress, as well as Dolly Parton.
Wow.
Yeah, so that'll be great, and that'll be at the Brink Lounge, as well as they're traveling to other places such as Middleton and Stoughton, so plenty of opportunities.
And then we'll be dancing on the ceiling.
Yes, dancing on the ceiling, performances by women of a certain age. So, yes, it's dancers above the age of 50, many of them renowned. There's 7 women performing. This was put on by the UW-Madison Dance Department as well as Lee Chow-Ping Dance. So it'll be really interesting. They're defying that, you know, you have to be young to be a professional dancer.
Go women of a certain age.
Yes, that's right. Lots going on. Well, thanks for being with us again.
Options.
All right, have a great weekend.
Yes, you guys too. Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
And get this month's Madison Magazine for all the best in the Madison area. And we'll be right back. Take a look at this. If you're headed to New York City and looking for a place to stay, this might be the ticket. You're looking at the most expensive hotel suite in the United States. It's at the Mark Hotel in New York's Upper East Side. It costs $75,000 a night. The suite is 10,000 square feet, located on both the 16th and 17th floors. It boasts 5 bedrooms, 4 fireplaces, 6 bathrooms, 2 wet bars. The living room has 26-foot ceilings, and if that's not enough room, there's also a 2,500-foot rooftop terrace with a view of Central Park.
Live at 4 on location.
I like it. I like it.
$75,000 a night.
It is beautiful.
It is.
Today is Thursday, October 11th. It is General Pulaski Memorial Day in honor of General Casimir Pulaski, a Polish hero of the American Revolution. The day also honors the heritage of Polish Americans, a very big holiday in Chicago.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And it's also You Go Girl Day. It's a celebration of women who break down gender barriers and stereotypes.
You're a go girl.
Go girl.
She's the youngest chief meteorologist in the country ever. Female chief
Was that
meteorologist.
in your first job?
Second job. So technically second job, yes. Just
youngest?
before coming here, so.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool back in the day. No, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, very, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
It is also National It's My Party Day. Why not have a party? And don't forget the music.
Yes.
And what better song to play than Leslie Gore's #1 hit, May of 1963, It's My Party.
Still a classic.
It is a classic.
Sketchy.
All right. And it's a party outside. Just put on a coat.
Chilly party outside, guys. Right now it's very cool and a little breezy for us. We have a few clouds in the sky, but there's some sun coming through as well. We're going to take a closer look at that full forecast and the chilly weekend ahead right after the break. It is cool outside for us, but we're not dealing with rain. A different story for Virginia and North Carolina as Tropical Storm Michael continues to move northeast very rapidly right now. It's going to continue to pull offshore for us, clearing out of the southeast, but we've seen quite a few pictures and videos shared across social media. Severe damage for parts of Florida, starting to get into Georgia and South Carolina as well. They are going to be dealing with flooding and the remnants of that storm for the next several days as the water clears, and then the damage, of course, for the next several weeks and months even. For us, we've been dry all day long. A little bit of sun as well. Looking at our Doppler track, not too bad of an image for central and southern Wisconsin. It's just a little cool outside for us currently, and of course a little windy as well. If you're getting ready to step on out the door. That cold front is now well off to the east, staying far away from us. That's the good news. We're going to let that continue to shift east. That's also part of the reason I'm driving Michael right on out to shore, or right on out to sea. We have some high pressure settling in. It'll keep us fairly dry for today and tomorrow. Slight chance for showers tomorrow evening. But that's a pretty minimal chance for us. Our focus more is the temperatures. By tomorrow, I meant Saturday evening. We'll see that with your future track. Again, a few clouds right now, but sunshine also expected. Later on this evening, we're going to start to drop into the 30s as soon as the sun sets for us. Overnight low temperatures will be below freezing. We'll start the morning off at about 31 in Madison, close to 33 in Jadesville. A very chilly start to Friday. Throughout our Friday, we'll have a few clouds and sun. Again, afternoon highs will be in the low 40s. Another cool, crisp day. And then we do have the chance for our temperatures to yet again fall below freezing for us heading into Saturday morning. Saturday will start off with sun, and then it is Saturday night that we have the slight chance for a shower or two coming in later on in the evening. We're pretty on par with the last several years when we see our first freeze of the season. Looking back again at 2017 in the end of October, looking 2016 early November, and then into the middle of October for 15, 14, and 13. So not too much of a jump for us. We're not too early, nor are we too late. Pretty okay with where we're at. That being said, we do have an alert day in the forecast for tomorrow because that hard freeze is possible. We have a freeze warning extending through much of central and southern Wisconsin until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. That growing season may start to wrap right on up and end for us heading into tomorrow and Saturday as the temperatures both mornings will drop below freezing. If you do have anything outside, you'll want to bring it indoors. And of course, wrap it up if you have any tomatoes out there. That was what we were talking about earlier with Mark, the tomato plants. I was told by Gary that's what he cares about most. Looking at our frost and freeze forecast, when we have our temperatures below freezing, that's of course when we have our hard freeze potential right at freezing. A little more of a line crossing between frost likely and whether or not we're going to have a light freeze. Heading into Sunday morning, we'll actually start off a little warmer in the upper 30s for us, and then we're looking at cool starts to our days into next week. Right now, a beautiful shot of downtown. You get to see a little bit of coloring there. A mix of clouds and sun right now. Temps today barely climbing to the upper 40s. Our average temps in the low 60s. Overnight lows, again, 30 degrees for us with that frost and freeze potential. Tomorrow we are in the low 40s with variable cloudiness, and it will be quite chilly for your Friday afternoon forecast. That's why we have that alert day in effect, just to put a little star in the back of your mind that it is going to be very, very cold outside tomorrow. But looking at our 10-day forecast, it includes a lot of sun. Our only real chance for a potential shower is looking at late Saturday. I put the question mark there just because it's a slight chance for us right now. Overnight low temps will stay quite cool. We'll start to get a little closer to average for us by the end of next week and heading into next weekend.
So the average first freeze is October 11th.
Yeah, right on time. Did your phone just say, okay?
No, Dave was talking about it at
Okay,
noon.
good.
Today.
Yes.
Right on cue.
So we're not concerned. We're not too early. We're not in September right now, and everyone's wondering what's going on. And it's not December saying, why are we still so warm?
Yeah, for a year of extremes, to be right on average is perfect.
Yeah. Right. So you guys can't complain about it tomorrow morning.
That's right.
Can't. It's fine.
It's time.
Yes, it is.
All right, Dana, thank you.
Dana.
And speaking of time says, if you want a standing desk, show a new study on Desk to Your Boss.
Research in the British Medical Journal found that after 12 months, employees who used sit-stand desks sat for 82 fewer minutes each day. The workers were more engaged and better at their jobs than their chair-bound peers. They also had less job-related fatigue and anxiety. Office workers sit for up to 85% of their time spent at work. We've got a couple of these in the newsroom. Our assistant news director has one.
We have one.
Yeah, I'd like to try
Yeah,
it.
I'd like to too. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Well, the Trump administration tariffs are hitting a Wisconsin company hard.
When we come back, we'll find out why a tariff on levels is setting one company off balance. That's when Live at 4 continues. Here's a nice shot of some fall colors downtown. One green tree, yellow and orange. They're starting to turn now, very pretty. The United States, China, and some other countries are currently engaged in trade disputes and tariffs.
The final outcome of these measures has yet to be seen, but in the short term, especially in Wisconsin, some companies are feeling the pressure. A level is simple to use, but creating the perfect bubble inside the vial takes a lot of effort.
If you have too much fluid, mineral spirit inside the vial body, your bubble's going to be too small.
One thing Johnson Level & Tool wasn't worried about, the bubble bursting. Now, like other U.S. manufacturers, the Wisconsin company is caught up in the escalating trade disputes and tariff hikes between the U.S. and China and other countries, and it's unclear when it will end.
Businesses hate uncertainty. This is a classic example of uncertainty.
The first tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminum in June didn't affect Johnson Level, but in July, a second round of tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese imports covered hundreds of items, including all levels levels and laser levels the company imports. The chief financial officer says they are bracing for a $3.7 million annual hit.
It's not going to shut us down, but what it does is it theoretically takes away money that we would want to invest for long-term projects.
Analysts say the trade war has hit Wisconsin particularly hard. Even Milwaukee-based Harley-Davidson has promised to move some manufacturing overseas to save money from retaliatory steel tariffs. Manufacturing still plays a central role in our economy, and about 16% of the workforce is in manufacturing.
I'd say the biggest risk right now is not necessarily job loss. Not only is our economy fairly strong right now, but most economies abroad, we really have a global expansion. I would say what's at risk is actually job creation.
For Johnson, options include raising prices on levels sold at big box stores to exploring moving some manufacturing, now done in China, to another country. It's also applying for exclusions from some tariffs. Despite the hit, the company believes the trade war could eventually spur better trade deals.
But when you're going through it, it's very difficult and it's changing lives.
Uncertainty that underscores that there are no easy answers when trying to level the international playing field.
And Wall Street's reflecting that too. It's
I'll have to keep an eye on it.
transitional time,
Yes.
for sure.
Well, the midterm elections are less than a month away now, and the race for governor is neck and neck.
That's according to the latest poll from Marquette Law School. The poll's director, Charles Franklin, is here to run down the numbers. That's when Live at 4 continues.
Roads are looking pretty okay right now still. Our first alert traffic update throughout Dane County. Not seeing anything too wild. Up towards Lake Wisconsin, the Merrimack Ferry still closed due to high winds. High wind threat continuing on for us today. It's breezy outside. Along the Beltline, if you're traveling along Fish Hatchery Road heading up towards the Beltline, so northbound about 17 miles per hour, southbound about 22. The Beltline backed up pretty much both directions. Westbound going 25 miles per hour, eastbound 26. There is one accident there on the Beltline, the westbound side near the Todd Drive exit. Right now it looks like everything's been scooted on over to the shoulder. That's the only thing we're really keeping an eye on. Drive times, a lot of green for us for most of the area. John Mulledy University, though, may take you about 5 minutes. Usually should be closer to 3 or 4. So an extra minute if you have that to spare. We'll keep a close eye on traffic and your forecasts. Right now, I'll send it back over to Mark and Susan.
All right, Dana, thank you. A minute counts this time of the day.
It does.
Hasbro has launched a series of parody versions of classic games just in time for the holidays. They are Clue, What Happened Last Night, Game of Life, Quarter Life Crisis, Mystery Date, Catfished, Sorry, Not Sorry, and Botched Operation. The games are now available exclusively at Target stores and its website. That'd be a fun gift.
That's pretty funny, yeah.
That'd be a good gift. Well, with less than a month to go until Election Day, the governor's race is too close to call.
The latest Marquette Law School poll shows the lead has changed once again. The director of the poll, Charles Franklin, is back with us. Hi, Charles.
Good afternoon.
And before we get to your poll, another poll was just released this afternoon.
Just NBC Marist released a poll at 4 o'clock our time. Unlike our poll, which shows Walker by 1, 47-46, Marist has Walker by 10 points Evers by 10 points head-to-head against Walker, and Evers by 8 points if you include the Libertarian and other parties. So that's a much bigger margin. We have Baldwin up by 10 points. They have her up by 14, I believe. So a little bit bigger margin there. But the governor's race is way different between our two polls.
Interesting.
Back to your poll, this, as we said, has gone back and forth.
If we just focus on our data, we have had Walker ahead by 2 points in June, a dead even tie at 46 in August. Then we had Evers ahead by 5 3 weeks ago, and now we have Walker by 1. So if you look across all of those, it sure looks like a toss-up race to me. Outside polling, including Marist, has had Evers ahead, leaving out this new one today, by 7, by 5, by 4, by 2, and by 2. So I look at that and say most of that gives Evers a little bit of an advantage, but it's still within the margin of error of those polls. And for my poll, which is the only one I'm really responsible for,
That's the only one that counts.
It looks like a toss-up.
And it looks like this is all along party lines so far?
The partisans are completely lined up with their nominee. Over 90% of Republicans for Walker, over 90% of Democrats for Evers. It's the independents that have provided some dynamic here. Last month, we had independents breaking to Evers by 20 points, which was an extraordinarily large number. This time, it's more back to where you might think it would be a 6-point advantage, but that's exactly the group that can fluctuate, be affected by advertising, by news stories, and we're coming up on debate season for all the races.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are pointing toward turnout and the enthusiasm in each party. You measured that as well.
We've looked at that. We've been watching enthusiasm all year. Democrats have had a consistent edge with the exception of one poll where Republicans were slightly ahead. Last month, we had Democrats 11 points more enthusiastic. This time, they're 6 points more enthusiastic. Republicans seem to have gotten a little boost in enthusiasm over these last 3 weeks.
Is that because of the Judge Kavanaugh?
Kavanaugh is obviously the biggest piece of news in that interval of 3 weeks, but showing it's directly linked to Kavanaugh is much weaker. We saw an exceptional number, 37% that said they had watched the hearings live, which is a big audience. But there were no partisan differences in who watched, and there were very minimal gender differences in who watched. So it doesn't look like either side was strongly more likely to be watching or engaged by it.
All right, let's turn to the Senate race.
Senate race, you have that 10-point margin, 53 for Baldwin, 43 for Vukmir. That's unchanged from last time. It was 53-42 last time. So Vukmir's picked up 1 point. but that race really hasn't moved. One of the key differences between the two is Baldwin is winning more of the independent vote than Evers is. The Democrats, both Democrats are winning a majority of independents, but her margin is bigger with independents. The other thing is Evers is only about breaking even with non-college white women, whereas Baldwin is winning that group pretty handily. And so that's another difference between the two races.
AG's race, that's getting tight.
AG's race tightened. If the governor's race moved in a Republican direction, the AG's race moved in a Democratic direction. From a 7-point Schimmel lead last time to a 4-point lead now, 47-43. This is the race where the candidates still have the most to do to get themselves known to the public. Even after being in office for 4 years, Schimmel is not recognized by 46% of the respondents, and Josh Kaul is not recognized by 81%. Now, we're about to hit the prime advertising season. There'll be a lot of ads for both candidates. So over the next 4 weeks to see how that moves will be really interesting. And really the debates, we're kind of lucky this time with all three of the races are having at least 2 and some 3 and I think maybe 4 for one of them. But there are a lot of debates coming. I should also say our poll was completed before the Monday night Senate debate. Okay. So we did not have any of the effects of that in our data.
And there's an AG debate tomorrow, I think, on Wisconsin Public Television.
Yes.
And then the Senate debate Saturday here on Channel 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right, and then there's another set of debates. I don't have them all in my head, but there are a lot of them. So tune in early and often to see them.
Be informed before you get to head to the polls.
The AG's race especially, that's a really important office, but it's not in the front of the news all the time. So I hope the coverage in the debates will help people tune in and understand that race.
And you have one more poll before the big night.
One more poll, one more.
We'll see you then.
We'll see you one more time. Thanks, Charles.
We'll be right back with the final check of your forecast. Cover up the plants you want saved.
Absolutely. So it's going to be quite cool tonight for us. Temperatures dropping below freezing. So we do have an alert day in the forecast for early Friday morning because of that frost and freeze potential. We could see a hard freeze for some areas. There is a freeze warning in effect for almost all of the area until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Will go in effect at 1 a.m. So this means with the temperatures dropping below freezing both Friday morning and Saturday morning, the growing season certainly wrapping on up for us. And as Mark has pointed out earlier, this is when we should be seeing our first freeze of the season. So this isn't an anomaly. It's just cold.
Yep.
Just that time of year.
It's been so warm. It's like, wait a minute, it's
Right.
middle of October already?
Yep.
All right, Dana, thank you. Coming up tomorrow here on Live Before, Michael Bruno talks to a Madison native who's in town, touring with the Broadway production of Something's Rotten.
And our canine correspondents, Lola and Louie, are along. It's Friday. That means we'll have the top animal stories in the lowdown. In today's Final Touch, it's up, up, and away.
It's ground zero for lovers of hot air balloons. Weather conditions were ideal in Albuquerque, New Mexico, much to